Hello, and welcome to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. This is our writing week, and this is our Map Day Tuesday, where we get to explore with a little bit more detail the challenge that we're going to make for one another, that we're going to participate in for this month's writing week. Victoria, what have you got lined up for us?
All right, in the tease, I mentioned that we were going to take a look at something that I call the narrative pyramid. It's nothing fancy, it's literally just a triangle. But what is important for this writing exercise is what's on it. So, we've been talking about issues of narrative distance, and that is how close is the narrator to the story and the story events, but more importantly, how close is the reader to what's being relayed, whether that's through a narrator or a character. So when you start thinking about this, and if you subscribe to my monthly newsletter, you're going to get a whole issue that talks about these kinds of things. We're talking about focalization, and that's just focus. What is the reader focused on, and how close are they to whatever that thing is? Well, when you're writing this, if you recall from the last couple of weeks of discussions, we talked about internal narrative distance, being close to the character internally. You hear their thoughts, you feel their feelings. If you're really doing your job, you're using all five senses, so that reader is really in tight with that character and what's going on. Or you're focused externally and you're experiencing the things that are outside of the interiority of the character. In either case, you always want to be mindful of that triangle. So if you imagine at the top of the triangle is, what does the narrator know? Okay, because if you got my newsletter last month, you know that an author and a narrator are two entirely different things. The author is you sitting down and writing the story. The narrator is the person you put on to tell the story. So you always want to ask yourself, what does the narrator know? What are they reporting on? And keep that in mind so that you aren't stepping over the boundaries. Well, what's on the second side of those boundaries? What does that include? Well, first of all, it takes you to the level of what does the character know? Because the narrator and the character might not be the same person. You may have a narrator telling the story. He saw this, he did that, he said this. Well, that's not the character speaking for themselves. So that narrator could very well know stuff that that character has no idea about, like what's around the corner or foreshadowing things that are yet to come in the plot. Your narrator can tell the reader all that stuff. And here sits your little character not knowing anything that's coming. So think about this as you're unpacking that story on the page and penciling out what the revelations and discoveries are going to look like. Now, in between those two things, as you travel from what the narrator knows to what the character knows, you have a couple of metrics. One could be represented with a plus sign. That means the narrator knows more than the character. So you're just visually reminding yourself that the narrator is the one that's got all the goods and the character is a little bit in the dark. Alternatively, you could have an equal sign reminding you that the narrator and the character know the same stuff. So that's going to keep you in check from overstepping that bound of sharing, because the two of them know all the same things and that narrator can't go offer in extra information because they're equals. Obviously, the negative sign is the character knows less than anyone. So again, you're keeping those things in balance. Who knows more, who knows less, or are they the same? Now, as we move across the bottom of our pyramid, of our triangle, who's over here? Well, it's the reader. The reader is the third leg of your table. If you've got the narrator at the top and the character over here, all of those are headed to the reader and what they know. So always keep in mind that third leg of the table. What have I revealed to the reader, and have I given them enough using the narrator and the character so that they can follow what's happening and either be wildly curious and turning pages to find out, or to be a little confused and wanting to unravel things, or maybe you want them completely in the dark so that you can stun them with a plot twist later. Whatever that looks like, keeping in mind as you write each scene and develop each chapter, does my reader know this yet? Or maybe they don't, and I need to be careful about that. Sometimes we call those spoilers. So in any case, that's the high-level view for your writing assignment. I want you to draw out that little pyramid. Put your narrator at the top, Put your character over here and put your reader over here. And then your challenge is pick a scene, pick an idea. You could even pick a piece of writing that you've already done and put it through that metric. Who's the narrator and what do they know in this scene? Who's the character? Do they know the same things or not? And then what would my reader know after reading this scene or this chapter? It's a fantastic lens to use in order to make sure that you've kept all of your ducks in a row and you haven't crossed any narrative boundaries. That, my friends, is a fantastic way of dialing in narrative distance and making sure that your triangle lines up and everybody's on the same page. See what I did there, Kathleen?
Okay, I just love that. Thank you so much, Victoria. And a triangle is such an easy thing to remember. And of course, narrator, character, reader. I like it very much. Well, what are you going to tell the story about? Well, obviously, in our world, it's going to be a story of gratitude. Well, if you're going to make a story out of it, and gratitude is going to be at the center, then we're going to have a transition. Early in the month, we took the opportunity to do a big review of what do those character positions on the character profile diagram mean. We reviewed them for a reason because today we're going to review what a transition looks like. And a transition is a movement from one character position to another on that diagram. And you get to choose your character trait. We're talking obviously about gratitude this month. And so you get to choose what the transition is going to be. There's a general rule of thumb for smooth writing. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, I do give you occasions where you can break this rule if you have my newsletter on gratitude. But by and large, you're very safe if you make your character transitions one position at a time. That's believable. Your reader can grasp that. But what does a character position change look like? It depends on what transition you're going to make. Now, we started out with gratitude. Remember, we were using Lego sets as our example. And we had the kid who had the rudder. He knew he was supposed to be grateful. Grandma didn't get him the super plus that he wanted. She just got him the plus, the junior plus, and he wanted that Star Wars super duper. But he worked on himself and he struggled with it. And he said, "Thank you, Grandma." And he got himself to the point where he really meant it. That was a struggle, but that was showing him at where he was. Then we had this kid where it was in the wing position. And this kid got a little bit snivelly. "You got me the Star Wars super duper. I wanted the Star Trek super duper." Oh, well, this kid knew he ought to be grateful, but he's not being grateful. All right. Now, it doesn't have to be about a Lego set, but what would it mean in general in the character that you're writing, the story that you're writing about? What would it look like if your character had a transition on gratitude from the wing to the rudder? What would make that happen? What would motivate a change from being aware that you ought to be grateful to being truly grateful? That is the writer challenge that you have to face. And how are you going to describe it? Gratitude is kind of an internal feeling, but it has an external expression. This is perfect for narrative distance, internal and external. So now, this is your writing assignment because you got to struggle with these things. Pick a one position change, and it can be, sadly, it can be the other direction. The character could go from having gratitude in the anchor, generally very grateful of things, but being so disappointed that he only got the junior plus that it popped up to the rudder. It can go either way. I like the transitions where the character grows and improves, but fact is you can write the story either way. But what I want you to do for an exercise is, since gratitude has internal and external components, it's a feeling and it's a conversation, I want you to take a transition, a character making a transition, any two places adjacent on the character profile diagram, and write your scene where that transition takes place two ways. Write it once, where you have a close-up narrative distance where you're internal to the character and you watch his own change of attitude, and then put that paper aside, start over, write the same story. Now step back and write it from the standpoint of what is visible. What does the character see when this thing that he should be grateful for happens to him? What is the external stimulus? What is seen? What is heard? And then how does it get expressed? So it just gives you an opportunity to play with what Victoria's been teaching with you and practice wringing out the meaning from gratitude. Victoria, anything to add?
Oh, that was fantastic. Fantastic. To take any character trait and flip it internally and externally is such a valuable exercise. Now, I can hear my maybe less experienced writers saying, but that's so much work. I have to first write it one way and then turn around and write it another way. No, that's the value. So often it's in the rewrite or the flipping of a draft that you learn something either about the story or about the character. So if ever there was a prompt that you should follow, it is this one. Do the exercise as Kathleen's lined it out and challenge yourself to see what can you discover about that character by writing them two different ways. I promise you're going to discover something that you would never have seen had you not done the exercise. That's all I got. Another fantastic episode. Find us if they want to find us.
Okay. Well, if you want to actually get some critique on your writing, if you want other eyeballs on your writing to comment for you, come on over to LiLLiPub.org. Now, this doesn't mean you've got to get it all done by this Saturday. You can take as long as it takes, but we meet every Saturday in Fusion Writing, and it's a Zoom call. Once you join LiLLiPub.org, go find Fusion Writing, sign into Fusion Writing. You'll find a place there to post your story, post it out there, post your work, and then come join us on Saturday. Victoria will lead us in reviewing these. The other people will read your story and will give you some very, very, very helpful feedback. This is invaluable. And what does it cost for this feedback? All right, write a number down on a piece of paper, and then I'm going to tell you what it actually costs. You're going to flip $8. $8. And guess what? You get to come to 4 Fusion Writings every Saturday in the 30 days membership for $8. 4 Saturdays for $8. $2 a Saturday for writing lessons? What are we in the 50s?
Yeah.
I think I paid $2 for piano lessons in the 50s for a private piano lesson. Are we in the 2000s? Come on. LiLLiPub.org. See you over there.
See you.
Bye-bye.